I'm reliving my days in the 70s.
That was the weather forecast this week, wasn't it?
It was.
Dress for the 70s?
Dress for the 70s, and here I am.
Excellent.
This is, yeah.
What am I dressing for?
Success.
That wasn't the weather forecast. I wish it had been.
Welcome to That Knitting Show. This is based on, I see a little thingy on it. Let me pick that up.
And that's such a knitter, right? Like you're always picking at it to make it perfect.
Gotta be perfect.
Crocheter,
this is
in this case.
Based on a shawl that my mom made in the 70s.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she wore it all the time. Like my early memories of her are like going around wearing this shawl, and it's 3 squares that are joined on the diagonal, and that's it. Just 3 massive granny squares. And then because it's like that, it just like sits. It doesn't, you don't have to like hold it in place or anything. It's just right up there.
Funny you should mention that. I was just looking at a shawl in that design. Oh, theme of the day.
Theme of the day.
Be there or be square.
We're actually going to be talking a lot about shawls and capelets and stuff today, but we'll get to that later because there's other stuff we want to talk about first.
What is this though? You didn't say. Did you make this up?
Well, I'm sure that my mom used a pattern because she was a pattern user, and I'm a pattern user. There's nothing wrong with that. But I tried to find the actual pattern that she used and could not. So I just crocheted rather. I just crocheted this from the original. I still have the original. I couldn't find it for today. I'm not sure where I've stored it away after I did this, but Sheep Company asked me to review some of their yarn, and so I looked through, and they have quite the selection of colors, and they had colors that matched from that shawl, and so I was like, well, now is my opportunity. I'm going to do that. So they sent me, it's fine. Okay, so again, like peeling back the curtain, right? So as a knitting influencer, people will approach you and ask you to review their yarns, and they'll say, we'll send you up to 4, up to 6, up to however many of the yarn, and you use it how you see fit. And so I think they offered me 6 or 5, however many colors there are, that's how many they offered. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 5 because this is repeated. So they offered, 4. 1, 2,
you can count, honest.
4. Sorry. So they offered 4 balls of yarn. And so I then paid for the natural so that I could do this whole ginormous shawl. And it's fall. It's November.
Perfect colors.
It's yellow outside now. And so I just thought I was going to, and we're going to be talking a lot about different capelets and capes and ponchos and things today. And so I'm wearing this one.
Perfect. From the beginning all the way up through now.
Yeah. Little throwback to last. Really, I feel like ponchos and big shawls and stuff were sort of last really embraced in the 70s.
I think then they came back a little bit, but I don't know
Am I being short-sighted?
I don't know that everybody took it as far, right? Because you're thinking about things like big pom-poms and granny square patterns and all of that,
right.
But ponchos come in so many different shapes and sizes and like formations now that you can really do some amazing things with different kinds of yarn too. It doesn't just have to be, the run-of-the-mill whatever you get at the local craft store. You can do something with a big bulky like what I'm wearing, the big wrap from Morehouse Farm.
Yeah.
And the hands-free element and not having to have something that you keep adjusting, I think is fantastic because, hey, as the weather gets cooler, I'm not ready for a big coat and all that bulk, and I'm roasty toasty this morning.
Well, I want to say even still, even when it gets cold, and we're in New England, so it does get cold here. Last winter, I just wore a shawl. I had a great big honkin' shawl that I would just like throw around me and wear, and I was good. Like, probably couldn't do that in northern Maine, but but where we were, that worked. And so this year I sort of need a new winter coat, and that's why I did that last year, because I kept putting off buying a new winter coat, and then it was like, well, it's like end of January now. Why bother?
Yeah.
And so this year I'm sort of debating, am I going to actually get a winter coat, or am I just going to keep going with my woolly shawls?
I'll hook you up with a Vanessa Knits Morehouse shawl. That's like a coat in itself.
That one I've had my eye on, so I am interested in that one. But okay, we have other stuff to talk about first. Sorry. And then we're going to come back and obsessively talk about shawls. But I want to talk about shawls more.
Okay, start.
Because, so I know people are going to tell me, Anne, what are you talking about? Shawls have been in style for quite a while now. I feel like wearing them as a scarf rather than as like a shawl has been a thing for 5 or 6 years now. 3 or 4 years now.
Probably even more, because it's, every skein of fingering weight yarn goes to a shawl, and it's an easy thing to learn on because you don't have to worry about gauge.
Yeah.
So if you were going to start with something, that would be it when you're ready to not be bored with the scarf anymore.
Right. Yeah. So I'm self-correcting.
It's okay. You learn new information and you change your mind, right?
Yeah. But I feel like the big shawl, or like a capelet or something, I feel like that's what's like this year. I've seen so many designs coming out for it, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm okay. So now I'm ready to back burner that for a few minutes.
Well, I think we'll keep weaving it in. So.
We'll keep weaving it in. But first, because I'm so excited, because last time we spoke, we were heading into Open Farm Day in Rhinebeck, and I want to hear how those went for you. I was there actually, so I kind of know how.
Well, you can just say that, right? From your perspective.
I thought they were great. I thought Open Farm Day was wonderful to see everyone and have the time to talk to people in person. And I was a little nervous about having people schedule, but I think that it really allowed for there to be a constant flow of people. It gave people the space to be in the store and over, working through the different activities that we had. And I think that actually worked out really, really well.
I think it helped us plan too, because we only have so much parking, right? We're not at festival grounds, and more than one person said, I was going to go park over there, and then I realized there's a pond.
Right.
so luckily we didn't have to pull anyone out of the pond, but we do only have so much parking, and in order to be able to accommodate everybody, we were thinking, let's spread it out, not just for parking, but we are still working through COVID and want to make sure that everyone has the chance to distance and all of those things. And you're right, the flow was so much nicer. I felt so much more relaxed, not just at Open Farm Day, but at Rhinebeck, because it wasn't the intense pressure of a crowd. And when you have the time and the space to be able to shop and make decisions, so Penny was able to pull together. She was working on the Morehouse family pullover. She was trying to decide on colors, but she had the time and space to be able to take these 3 naturals and put them together, and then sent me a picture later to say, I was looking at all of these, but these are the ones that I want. And you can never do that on a Saturday at Rhinebeck.
Yeah, because you're like reaching, trying to get things, and then you sort of.
And I don't know about you, but the minute I'm, standing room only with somebody, I think like, yeah, I don't really need to be here. I'll come back later, and then I don't always get to. But I think that calm flow at the farm, especially, really showed off. Like what I think is so magical about Morehouse Farm is the ability to find peace. It's
enjoy the farm.
You're out in nature, right? And so where did you have lunch?
My husband brought me lunch, actually.
Right, but where did you sit and eat it?
Oh yeah, so I went out. It's so funny. So we've in some of our things that we've done before, we've talked about the birdhouse, which is a little sort of glass fronted cabin, that Albrecht had made for Margaret, and it overlooks the pond. And Erin, my husband, brought me lunch, and Erin was like, go sit in the birdhouse. So I did. And it's so funny because there were people wandering through the farm and enjoying everything, and someone walked by and said, oh, I guess this is the employee lounge. Just kept going.
But it was so neat to have people be able to enjoy just a walk through nature, right? Yeah. So when Ying was in class, Peter took a walk, and he's a photographer, so I hope he'll share some of what he shot, because later on he said, can I take your dog for a walk? And we did, and I was so nervous that she would pull and jostle the camera. I didn't want anything bad to happen to that. And then he was showing me how to frame a shot, because the forest part is so beautiful, and I can never take a really good picture of, the expanse of what I see and convey that, what I see in my head onto film. So he was taking a couple of shots to show me later.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
yeah. And just, being able to be out and see the different things that you wouldn't normally see right from the road or the shop or that. So I'm glad so many people got to enjoy it. And then Albert came back later and said, everywhere I went, there were just knitters in little bunches sitting and knitting, crocheters crafting over here, or however they wanted to enjoy the space. But there are some random benches and people found those, and it was really cool and really calm and restorative, which I think we all needed right now.
That's a good description. It was just very nice to be there and calm. And even though, you were obviously working and I was there helping out, but there was you're welcome. But there was still enough time to just enjoy.
And have conversations with people, because when it's, I need a skein of this or that or whatever, and want to help everybody.
Yeah.
But to be able to have a conversation about how do I pick what colors go together.
Right.
When you just want someone to bounce ideas off of. And
it gave us that time. Yeah. So it was nice. I really loved the having fun at the table that was covered with the free skein packs. So free spirit. They weren't free skeins, though. I think if you did the prices, it ended up like some of them you got some free. So there were several tables that were full of these free spirit skein packs. So maybe they have some breaks, or they're the end of a dye lot or whatever.
A little bit of chaff, because sometimes sheep are messy ears.
Yeah.
Or
so
we don't spin that style anymore. So the oddballs that need a good home.
Yeah. So those were all bagged up on a few tables, and I was over there at one point, and I can't remember who I was talking with now, but she and her sister were there.
Oh, probably Roz and Rebecca.
Yes, it was Roz and Rebecca. And they were saying, oh, this, but I like that one and this, and I was like, well, you can mix and match. Like, as long as they're all the same, 2-ply or whatever, then just make your own. And then it was like free for all. It was like, let's do this. And we had bags open and we were comparing colors and coming up with new things. So that was a lot of fun.
Because they're looking ahead to our December project, I think, in the flock. So we'll get there.
Excellent. We'll get there. How about Rhinebeck? How was Rhinebeck for you? I will share how my experience was, but I want to know how it went for you as a seller, as a retailer.
So as someone with a booth there, it was weird having so much space just coming in to set up, because we put our booth up and it was kind of all by itself, because there were empty spaces in between the booths just to allow for different spacing and making sure everyone had enough room. And then our booth dimensions also changed. So we were re-engineering a little on the fly, and I love it. Like there was such a better traffic flow because we were able to use the space in a different way. It was the same square footage, but it was wider and narrower. And that allowed us to put up some things like a little stand in the middle that helped guide people in. And just when you have those visual cues of what you're supposed to do, it's not, do I pop in this way or that way, or where am I supposed to go? Like I think it relieves anxiety when there's those cues, first of all. And then there was enough spacing because of the tickets being one day or the other that the festival could plan on that. So Saturday and Sunday were almost even, I think, in terms of traffic flow.
Interesting.
There were more people on Saturday than Sunday for sure, but they were a lot more balanced than they've been in the past.
Interesting.
And I did not feel the crowd pressure in terms of, I could say, hey, there wasn't, if I needed to run to the bathroom, like, I actually could. So as someone with a booth, I appreciate that very much. But it was just so much more relaxed, not the frenzy of, oh my goodness, if I don't get there right away, I'm not going to get the thing that I want.
Yeah.
I think everyone is just so grateful to be able to be there.
Yeah.
It was...
I feel very much the same as an attendee. So it's several years since I last went, and my memory of being there is just being like this a lot as you're trying to move through, because the press of the crowds was so intense. And I got that in one area this year, and there was a barn set up that had a circular flow. They all had one direction circular flows, but this one had, at the midpoint of one side, there was also an entrance, and we were entering at that midpoint, and as you entered there, it was very, very tight and crowded. But then once you got through, I don't know, maybe 20 feet on either side, it was fine again. But just going into that barn, I was like, oh no, it's going to be nuts in here, but it did open up again. And it was so much nicer to have, as you say, like to have the freedom to just like, to really look and play with colors a bit and ask some questions and just
like you had time and space
less intense
to pay attention, right? Like time and space to think and combine and plan, which you don't have when you're in such a hurry. So and I just think about that in traffic in general, right? Like we visited some relatives in Florida and they were putting in a diverging diamond.
What is a diverging diamond?
Just look it up. I'm not going to do a good job of explaining it, but it's somehow where you have two big roads of traffic meeting, and then in order to facilitate turns across traffic, you have to kind of do this thing. And look at it, look it up yourself, make your own decision. It's super complicated and it's supposed to improve traffic flow. But the real, sort of heart of the matter is the more people you have in a space, the more vehicles, the more of anything, right? The more the flow needs to be thought of in order to be able to accommodate that volume, especially in a limited thoroughfare. And I think the festival committee did an awesome job. And thank you so much, because they are all volunteers, first of all. If you attended Rhinebeck, please send an email to them and thank them, because I'm afraid they only heard grumblings of what everyone thought they should be doing, and they didn't get to hear enough of that gratitude. So I shot one off right away. And I tried to do that over the summer too, because I could hear what other people were complaining about on social media, and you have no idea how hard they work, and they made that happen for all of us. So if you have 5 seconds, just drop an email to the festival committee and thank them, so that they'll want to do this again, because I would love to repeat this.
And another thing, especially with Rhinebeck, is we have to remember that Rhinebeck sort of happened to them. Like Sheep and Wool has been going on for ages now, but it becoming the popular ages. But it becoming like the popular destination that it has become.
Well, they've worked hard to do that too.
Right.
So what Anne's alluding to is my dad and his family grew up with sheep in Pleasant Valley, which is part of Dutchess County. So that was our local fair, and he was part of the sheep and wool growers. So there's a picture of me as a 2-month-old at the wool pool at the fairgrounds in Grandma and Grandpa's arms. And then as that festival grew, like we remember it as a sheep show with a couple of yarn vendors. And Phil Seymour came by. He used to run it like back in that day. And it was so cool to see him out and about, and, with the whole jokes about like, I'm on the right side of the pasture. But he just walked up to me and said like, I haven't seen you in 100 years. You don't look the same, and I probably don't either. And I remember showing his son Russell had gone off to college, and another 4-H'er needed to show the market lamb, and I remember showing Russell's market lamb for him. So anyway, it's just full of memories from when all of those were, sheep shows with yarn vendors. And look at it now. How many people know that there's a livestock show there? And that's grown too, because there's camelids now that didn't used to be there. There's rabbits, there's all kinds of things that are other, fiber producing events and showing from the egg. And that, the whole festival has grown and changed because of their hard work. So sorry, I just like, this is blast from the past.
I actually met a vendor. This was going to be her last year. She's retiring. She's been rehoming her flock, and she said when she registered this year, she was told she was the oldest continuous vendor that they had. And that was her last year. She said she's been doing like 32 years or something like that she's been vending there. And it's, it's wonderful. I sat and talked with her for a bit.
That makes me wonder. I have to go look how many we have. We took a break when Margaret got sick and wasn't able to do the festivals for that bit. But say being, original members of the Sheep and Wool Growers Association, and they were honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2015 for everything that they had done. So
did you get to go around and look at anything while you were there?
No. My mom was an awesome help. So if you came by the booth, you met her. And then Ted and Victoria each popped in for a little bit to help out. Thank you both again. And who else? Amy came by, meet the designer. You had your listener meetup. How did that go?
That's good. We had a few people show up. I kept running into people before that happened. So that was fine. So I ran into 5 or 6 people before the listener meetup, and then had the listener meetup. And so there were fewer people, I think, who came because we already saw each other. We already talked and stuff. And so I had a few people come. And then afterwards, I was standing outside those big doors that open up to the outside on that ground floor there. And several other people came by. We're like, hey, you're Anne. And I was like, yeah, I am. And then I saw a few other people like walking around who, like, I recognized them. They recognized me. The coolest thing, though, personally, was I ran into a family that I had grown up with.
Oh, wow.
We had gone to church together when I was in my early teens, and then they moved away to, I think, the Virginia area, and then they've been back for a few years, but where I'm not in my home area anymore. I'm like an hour away. And so anyway, ran into them, and that was just delightful to see them. It was like the whole family too. So like, you know, they had the grown kids that when I knew they were babies and stuff. So I got to do the, you don't look the same, ha ha ha, like old person thing.
Oh, and Patty Lyons came by. Oh, like I had 5 seconds to say hi.
Oh, that's
trade
great.
a hug and move on. But Patty is she's kind of in a duel right now with Seth Meyers. If you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. It's hilarious because Seth is knocking knitters right and left, all the stereotypes of it. And Patty's saying, are you manly enough to have me on your show to teach you to knit? So let's keep encouraging that because the world needs more knitters. If she gets on that show, I have already said, we'll bring the yarn.
Yeah, that was so funny. The funniest thing was that she knit the vest for him. And that because he does a show on YouTube that's corrections. And so he wore the vest, and then the next time it was a sweater. But I'm like, I want to know the behind the story for that, because the vest was suddenly a sweater, and then the sleeve came off while he was talking. And so I'm like, okay, all right, was that wardrobe who knit the sleeve so he could have that joke? Or did Patty like get it back and add to it, and then they did that on purpose? Like I want to know the backstory of that part so much. Anyway,
maybe we can call her up and ask her.
Yeah, tell me
when it's all over. Probably. We can't let the the secret
ongoing.
Ingredients
can't
go.
All right. We have so many things to talk about.
All right, we better get on with it then.
All of our stuff. Like Erin is swathed in wraps right now. I've got this one. We've got other things to talk about. But first, we've got to organize ourselves. So let's talk about finished ones. What do you have finished?
Thank goodness you're a planner.
Yeah.
So this is the big wrap, and it's in Morehouse Farm bulky. It takes 4 skeins, and it's an easy knit. The pattern, there's actually 3 different shawl patterns or wrap patterns that come in the kit.
In one.
And we were doing a little promotion now because I have some really cool shawl pins that go along with your kit while supplies last. And here's a second version of it. And might I style Anne?
Yeah, please do.
Pardon me, I have a little arm thing going on here.
Oh,
and you can, wrap yourself up however you like. Oh, that looks so fallish.
Pumpkin.
And depending on the drape of your fabric, and people don't always love bulky or talk about wool for this, but look at how this curls. This is the bulky. Yeah. This is our super bulky, which has a little more of a, what's the right word? It's a little more robust. So you can style it however you like. But the thing that everyone keeps asking me is, how do you use this silly thing, right? The shawl pin. And Anne, tell us how did this come about?
I made this. This is the shawl pin that I made in 2019 when I was at Shetland Wool Week. Cecil Tate of Pepperwork Furniture does a workshop where you can whittle your own shawl pin. And you start by drawing, you get a piece of wood and you draw what you want to do. And he's like, anything that has a circle in the middle, do that. So this is supposed to be a sheep. Cecil made fun of me about it. And I asked Erin and she's like, well, it's not a merino. I don't know.
As Ula, my Oma would say, is art.
It's art. It's an artistic sheep. So anyway, it's my interpretation of a sheep head. Yeah, and that was super fun. I really enjoyed that class. It's like
textile ears, but they're pointier.
Yeah, I don't know. The first incarnation, Cecil made me go back to the drawing board. He was like, that's a dog. That's not a sheep. I was like, I'm sorry. I have failed you.
because drawing is really my thing, right?
Yes.
So the question we get the most is, how do you use this thing? Because if you poke it through, right, it doesn't stay. You might stab your friend here. So we want to show you how you use a shawl pin. And the idea is overlap the two pieces, and you want to catch them both. If you just have the stick type of shawl pin, you're going to poke it in. I have my hand under here so I don't poke Anne.
Thank you.
And then I'm going to poke it back out. And you see it just goes through in between the stitches, and it's going to hold everything in place. So you're going to do the same thing when you have the decorative piece of a 2-part shawl pin. You'll put the pin where you want it to go on your shawl or wrap, and you'll poke the stick part in, and then poke it back out the other side, just like we did, but you'll make sure you poke it in and out through both layers. In the middle of that shawl pin. That's how it stays put.
Yep.
And you can do it in any direction. So if you want it to poke up, poke down. This is good.
I like that. It looks like he's chewing on.
There you go. Get a piece of alfalfa in his mouth.
Yeah.
And there you go. So that's the way you use a 2-part shawl pin.
Oh, this is nice and warm. I like this.
Okay.
Look at, we're so stylish. Look at us being all fancy.
Okay, there's the cover photo.
I love it.
Although we probably moved too fast. I always remember I do that later on. Like,
oops.
Pause and smile. Oops.
Well, and we don't have much control over it either. I don't know if you realize that. YouTube gives us like 3 choices.
Oh.
This one, or this one. And so I try to pick the one that is either least dorky or most dorky.
Right. Because gosh knows there's a whole lot of, instead of eyes open, mouth closed, the exact opposite.
Okay, so
we've been enjoying this very much.
Yeah.
What did you finish then?
So I finished a shawl. This is the Loren shawl designed by Gudrun Johnston, who sells as the Shetland Trader. Yeah, I can do that. I'm going to do it like a little sideways so I can talk about aspects of it. It's not blocked yet. This really just came off my needles the other day.
Ooh,
so
I'm making a poncho like this right now.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm making it a poncho.
So it's a V shape, a triangle shape, and you start with the garter stitch, and then you get into, these are called bird eyes.
That's really cool.
See that? Yeah. So it looks like you've knit a circle in knit stitches, and they're connected up to one another. So that when it's blocked, that will spread out more. And then, so Gudrun Johnston, the Shetland Trader, her mother started the company and was known for sort of incorporating Shetland lace into garments that you wouldn't necessarily see Shetland lace in. And Gudrun does a lot. She'll do traditional patterns, but she'll also sort of add things to them that make it a little more modern. So in this case, we have the lace border, but then she goes back to garter for a bit, and then we have more of the eyes. You don't usually see this garter interruption like this. That's an addition. And then this edging, once you have all of that done, you start at one end and you start knitting the edging along the edge, catching the live stitches of the edge as you go.
Look at that on just with a dark background.
So then that, when you block, gets blocked out to a point like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I just like it as a scallop right now.
Yeah, it looks like a scallop at this point, but it gets pulled out.
Beautiful.
So that is my latest, and I knit this in Uradale's first clip. So it's lamb's wool.
And I'm just looking how fine the edge is, right? Because that's a whole stitch.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
these are one of the cool things about Shetland lace is oftentimes you work a yarn over as you're starting the row, and that gives you these nice loops here, which make it very easy if you are picking up stitches later. But when you're not, you just get that nice loop at the end.
But I'm also looking at that and thinking like, ooh, more things to do with Morehouse lace.
Inspiration. So that came off my needles, and this is something that I started working on. I was very gung-ho about it, and then other projects needed to be finished, so it sort of lived in the work in progress pile. But the last 4 weeks, I've been doing Face the Music Monday on Instagram, where I pull out something from my work in progress pile that I really want to finish, and actually wear. And I just spend that day's crafting time working on it. And then it can go back to the work in progress pile. I don't have to think about it again, but I know like that day I will devote to it. And 3 weeks of that, and I got that done. And so I'm very happy. One less work in progress, one more thing I can actually wear. And I have a couple more work in progress that I will be able to choose from next Monday, and hopefully just little bits at a time, get it done.
So that's making me think, and this is skipping ahead, but I think it's totally apropos, and I have to find it so I have the exact quote. Margaret Lohr, the founder of Morehouse Farm with Albrecht, she wrote a book called Morehouse Farm Merino Knits. Some of you might have seen it. And as I was pulling things together for your Wovember celebration, I was just perusing it again, remembering like when she was writing it. And I fell on this page and it said, knitting is the time when I digest the day's events. My life's the world's. Life's meaning for me resides in the rhythm of knitting. And like you just saying that, of just, here's a day, no pressure, picking up something to work on. And that's, right, it helps you get over your Monday, right?
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. So that is what I have finished lately.
Awesome.
It's just that one. I have a lot of works in progress right now, but that one's my done one. And what do you have?
I think I showed you this last time because I had just come off, but this is Marin Melchior. She and her sister Ellen came to Open Farm Day, by the way. It's like very nice celebrities there. And you know Marin as the butterfly lady. She did the butterfly shawl and so many cool variations of short row knitting. But she also has this amazing sense of color and style here. And this is so cool. It's meant to be just a little capelet. We were saying that's it. It's going to be the November project in the Morehouse Merino Flock. So look below in the links for your class time and information. And look at this. Can you help me hold this up?
Yeah.
As a shape. Right? So you're knitting in the round this amazing, it almost looks like a spider web.
Yeah.
Think of how versatile this is. So we were talking in the flock about, wouldn't that be amazing as a holiday table decoration?
Yeah.
Or if you celebrate Christmas, a tree skirt, right? Because there is a key lime green and a cardinal red. That would be
perfect.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
And this is made with 2 skeins. You can see I alternated the colors just because Marin said, hey, would you do stripes as a test knitter just to see what it looks like? Okay, sure, whatever. And I think it really helps accentuate the design, you know, in working towards these points. So we're going to learn a lot of things that go from an I-cord, which is going to be your actual cast on, and then you're going to learn to pick up stitches in an I-cord. You're going to do an applied I-cord edge along the way. We're going to talk about lace repeats, both reading the written version and the charted version. So even if you've never done it before, or you've done it before and it turned out horribly, we're going to make that work. And then we're going to talk about a knitted bind off that's stretchy enough to accommodate these points. And what else did I forget? Oh, the practicing the knit 2 together versus SSK to lean them in different directions. And you can do a 1 skein version of this, which is a whole lot shorter, right? Half the...
Yeah, it's more of a collar.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
If you happen to be a smaller statured person, or if you have giant shoulders, you can pick accordingly. But if you just want to play with a 1 skein project, you know, our super bulky is fantastic for this. Yeah. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you at our November classes in the flock. And we've got the capelet theme going. So what's on your needles then? Or do we have something else finished?
Oh, I had one other thing finished that I'm going to cut right here and go get it. And then you'll never know I was gone. Oh, this bag magically appeared. So the world is abuzz right now with the WestKnits mystery knit along.
Oh, right.
And I started, I'm not a mystery knit alonger.
You're too much of a planner.
I am a planner. And I really, really, really love some of Stephen West's patterns.
Yeah, your painted bricks is like, you wore that everywhere last year.
I love that one. And the Fanastitch right over there, absolutely love that one. I'm like so happy with both of them. So I was like, okay, you know what? If I'm gonna do it, let's do it this year. I had yarn that I got on a trip to Utah earlier this year that I had intended to be for a Stephen West shawl that was going to work for this one. So I thought, and so I got going on it. And this is what it looks like so far. So this is as far as I got. I got to towards the end of clue 2. And I made modifications here. And looking at clue 3, going into clue 3, I was thinking I was going to have to make modifications again. And I'm not in love with the placement of the colors that I chose. And so this is going to be off my needles because it's just going to come off my needles. And it's going to go back into stash. But I think not for long, because Stephen West also just had a birthday and he gave a coupon code for his birthday, and I picked up like 3 other patterns, and I think that this will still be reborn as a Stephen West pattern.
So what don't you like about this? Because I think they are amazing colors together, and I think you're absolutely right that it's the placement that is making a difference. I think it's the placement of the
because
this is a really cool design.
Right. So what
stands out to you that you
I don't like. Okay, so one of the things he kept saying was put the colors, like assign your colors and keep them assigned as A. Like that's color A, that's color B, and do it consistently because you don't want to run out. So I did, but I knew already I was not going to like these slip stitch V's here in white over the other colors. If I had that to do again, I would do the navy or the gold. And then also you'll see like here I have a lighter blue. That's actually this Angora yarn that I added because it was supposed to be this variegated yarn. And the variegated yarn with white over it just was not going to work.
Because it has the white in it too.
Because it has the white in it already. And so I added, he was like, you can add colors, that's fine, but don't change the order of the colors. So I added this color. And then here he had people knit I-cord loops that just sort of looped back on each other, and you did that all the way around. And then the next part, this part here, connected to those loops and dangled from those loops. I don't like that.
Dangly.
I don't like pieces of shawl dangling from other pieces of shawl. And so I'd already seen that was what was happening because I was behind on clue 1 because it ended with the loops and then clue 2 started with the dangles and I was behind. So I saw that was going to happen. So I just knit in the navy back and forth and carried on. But then again, like with this section here, the stripe color ended up being the variegated, and I don't think it works because it's got gold in it against the gold. And then I really loved the welt. That was really, really fun to do. So you knit 10 rows of the red and then dropped a stitch and did a connecting slip stitch up, and it gave you these like fun little, he calls them welts. They're like bumps or rounded things. And I did the like normally I avoid baubles. I did the baubles, and baubles don't weird me out anymore. Like I was happy with those. But then the next section, he gave the choice of brioche or a lace, but the lace was striped. So you had the lace dots going this way and the stripes going that way, which works sometimes, but I didn't think it worked with this shawl, with what was going on with this shawl. So, and I wasn't crazy about doing all that brioche. Anyway, it was just like, I'm not loving it. I'm not loving it like this.
I think for me, the thing that is such a stark contrast is your dark colors at the top. And that changes,
and then it brightens up so much.
Well, I think it's the visual weight of these colors. Yeah. When you have a dark color on the top versus the bottom, it looks heavier in the darker color spots. And it's hard to describe, like when there's one little thing that might change the whole perspective. Like if this was gold or if this was white, I think you would look at this completely differently. And that, I think, is really a testament to when a designer puts something together. Yeah. Like how much time and effort they spend in thinking about color placement, and think about how important that is in a Fair Isle project. Right. You know, because those colors not only need to work together, which I think these all do, by the way. Looking at this, hold those up. I don't know if you can see them on the table, right? But they look great together.
Yeah, I was really excited about these colors. Oops, I caught the bag.
And then I think it's just it's tricky to put them together. When you're doing a mystery knit along, you kind of have to jump in with both feet and see what happens.
Yeah, and I have seen some that are absolutely gorgeous. They're just beautiful. And I almost think that the colors that I had originally picked would have worked better because they're not as different. They're closer in shade to one another. And I think they would have worked really well. But the type of yarn it was, when I saw the first clue, I was like, oh, I don't want to. It's more of a loosely plied rather than like a sock yarn with the higher twist. And with all the textural things that he was adding in, I didn't think it was going to work as well with the looser plied yarn.
And then I think here, it's hard to tell exactly as unblocked, but with the white being such a stark contrast over the top, and you mentioned that too, as I'm looking at the camera as we're filming, right, I'm only seeing the white. I'm not really seeing the background. And I think definitely the darker background gives a different look, but the white is so stark. And again,
it overwhelms that section.
Just all I see is the white from farther away. So I should just bring it closer so you can see how much there is in that section. Right. So I think it's not a waste of time if you've learned something.
I definitely learned things from it. I learned things. I learned about the welts. I am cool with the bobbins. I gained some confidence by doing that alteration to the pattern. And I feel like I learned a lot about the importance of color placement. And so I don't feel sad about stopping here and not finishing. Of course, I would have loved to have finished it and had it done. But I also feel like
you will again when you're ready.
Yeah, if I'm not loving it, I'm not loving it. And that's okay to walk away from it. I can use the yarn. I'm tempted to try it again with a different color placement. Now that I've seen it, I think we probably could have had more freedom for color placement.
And I think I see a lot of people who would love this color placement as it is. Just watching at the different festivals with what people have knit and what they walk around in. So that just really speaks to, one, the color placement is tricky, but two, it's such a personal preference on what do you like. And would I have put these two colors together? I don't know. I love them both. Would I have put them together? Well, Margaret always had some pretty amazing color choices that I would just shake my head at. And you know what? There are a ton of people that loved them. So that's where I think the magic is. And what do you like? Make sure you love it.
Right.
And if you don't, it's okay to stop, right? Yeah. Like there are some books that I feel like I should have read and I just couldn't get into them. So there they sit.
Yeah, and books and knitting projects, if I don't love them, I feel like it's a form of adulthood or a level of adulthood that I've hit where I'm just like, I don't care. I don't want to finish.
Right, my time is limited.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with it?
Dark. Okay, let's move on. So I have a few things on the needles right now. First of all, we're doing the Makkin Our Way Through Shetland participants group. We are working on the Apelia hat, which is a Fair Isle hat. It has a charcoal colored background, and then all of the pattern colors are these like fiery reds and oranges and yellows. And it's actually a really good beginner Fair Isle hat because there's quite a few.
Pulling out the colors because I want to see them. Because I matched up my Morehouse lace with them to do one on these myself.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see how close they were to the originals. So these two oranges are not very different at all.
Yeah, they're pretty close.
I got it covered.
So the colors are blended in a way that they really sort of glow.
That's a really good word for it.
And it's in honor of the Apelia Fire Festival that takes place in Shetland every year, which is towards the end of January when the days are getting longer and the sun's coming back, but people are still living in the darkness for a lot of the day. And they have different groups that dress up and they go through the communities, and it's a whole day-long festival to the point that it ends about 8 a.m. the next morning because they're up dancing and partying and enjoying each other's company.
Is this
the evening
community-only event, or is this a
tourists come? It's a big tourism event. More and more so as time goes on. A lot of people come home for it from Shetland. They'll go home for Apelia too. So it's really hard to get housing if you're traveling for that. Okay. But
bucket list.
Yeah, but at the end, the sort of main squad, the main group of people in disguise, they're all called geysers, but the main geyser squad is always Viking themed. And at the end, and on the parade, they carry around torches. All of the geysers, there's about 1,000 people who have torches. and they like go around this big public area in the middle of town, and there's a big they build a Viking ship, and they throw all the torches into the Viking ship, and it burns. And
so a funeral pyre without a
funeral. Hopefully without a
so I'm thinking of like my Scandinavian heritage in all of this, and my favorite Halloween costume, because we are filming the week of Halloween, and my friend Joanne lent me this one year. It was so ridiculous. They were making all kinds of fun of it, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it. It was a fireman's helmet that had been painted white and had cow horns attached to it. So, and picture this, right? Braid, braid, and an armband. And all I did was wear that to the office, and it's the most fun Halloween costume, because it wasn't like I showed up in a chicken suit. God bless you, Nick. That was still my favorite year. He was a chicken, and I was Rosie the Riveter.
That was a cute picture. I love that.
Halloween costumes on a budget, more of time than money, because these things occur to me the day before. And what can I reasonably do?
Put it off.
Like, what can I reasonably do with not a lot of time? And, I have a Rosie the Riveter outfit. All I had to do was borrow my husband's belt.
There you go. We had, I felt very proud of ourselves because we thought of it the week ahead.
That's like eternity.
Yeah, so my husband was Ron Swanson, and I was bacon and eggs. And he had a mug that said, "Bring me all the bacon and eggs you have," from that one episode of the show. So anyway, that was ours this year.
Okay, Viking fire festivals too.
To Ron Swanson and bacon and eggs. Anyway, so that's one thing I have on. So we're doing this as a knit along for the tour participants, but I'll also be posting about it on Instagram. The pattern design is from Nicole Estelle Designs, who's a young designer there in Shetland. She also has a design in the Shetland Wool Week annual that is very cool, heading out to people now.
And more of the charcoal.
More charcoal. This is actually Oxford. So same maker.
Just a slightly different shade.
Charcoal. This is Oxford.
Okay.
And this is in DK weight. And this is the seed, and I had to write it down because I keep forgetting. The Seed and Leaf Swirl by Lynette Meek. And so this is the top of it. That's where your head goes. And it is a poncho / capelet. I think of a capelet, it has to have an opening. So this is a capelet to me. This is a shawl to me. And then a poncho, you put it over your head and it's
so this butt closed.
Yeah. So if that had a seam to it, that would be a cape. That would be a poncho.
Okay.
That's how I think of them. So I think this is called a cape, but I think it's more of a poncho. But anyway, so you start with
then what's a cloak?
That's just, you wear it to your back and it's longer. Define all these things. So it starts with ribbing and a twisted rib that you don't need a cable needle for. And as you get down, the lace sections expand so that you get like a leaf pattern that comes down.
Cool.
So you end up with leaf lace going down, and then the stockinette section between.
I'm stretching this out so you can see it, because it's not doing it justice to have it sit here on the needle.
The stockinette section in between is where you work your increases, and you only increase on one side, so it starts to grow to one side, and so that's where the swirl comes in, because it starts to move around your body. So this I did not swatch for. And so I had to take it off. I had to take it off because it was way too dense. The fabric was way too dense. So I do recommend people swatch for shawls and capelets and things, even if you think you don't need to, because it's good practice.
Let's pause on that for a second.
Okay.
If you are the kind of knitter who doesn't mind ripping things out if you don't like it because you want to improve on it, go for it, right? But if you don't want to have to redo anything, then heck yes. Absolutely swatch. And that is a personality difference, like a planner and a seat of your pants.
Yeah.
Right?
I've gotten to the end of a couple of lace shawls before that, and then it was time to block, and the instructions say block to 60 inches across or something, and gotten to 48 inches and could not get it any further. And then to me, that was, excuse me, that was frustrating enough that normally with lace and things like this, I will swatch now because it ended up so much smaller than what I wanted. I wanted the big thing. And so just to be sure, I do swatch. This one I didn't because I've been doing so much Fair Isle lately. Fair Isle, I get a workable thing, and I can tell really quickly if for some reason I'm not getting the proper fabric. And so I pull out early and do it. And so I don't know, I guess I was cocky, or I just forgot to swatch because I hadn't had to do it for so many projects recently. So I got started on it, and it was very obviously.
Or you just didn't like the fabric, right? Like, that's okay.
Well, you need a certain drape in your fabric, especially for a poncho. And so this was going to be like a board.
And that's okay, right? That's what that swatch, or if you use your project as a swatch, is going to teach you. And it's okay to make that change. And I think we often equate that with failure. But again, it's a learning experience. And I know so many knitters who say, oh, my grandmother, aunt, uncle, whoever, always knit without a pattern and they didn't need to swatch. Yes, they did. And they did it all in past years, like Anne was just describing with Fair Isle. So they had that information in their head. And did you need to swatch for the hat?
I did not need to swatch for the hat.
Did you swatch for the hat?
I didn't.
And it's coming out awesome.
Yeah, it's fine.
And that just goes to speak of all of the hours and hours of practice that went into that, of gathering that information, of confirming that information. So now that is part of Anne's knitting toolbox. So she knows that, right? So now switching back to something, right? Not only are we switching, we are also trying a completely different style. It's been a while.
Right.
And experimenting again. And this combination of yarn and needles, okay, something totally different.
Yep.
And now you're making it one you love.
Right.
That's what
So that's working. So this will, in the end, be basically a giant circle that I will block into a circle, and then that becomes the capelet. So as I said at the beginning, I am in love with capelets and the whole poncho cape thing this year. I'm just in love with it, and I'm loving all the patterns I'm seeing come out of it.
Cool.
So this is what I'm working on right now. I'm also going to be working on this in the meantime because this class starts this month, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm doing that in yellow.
Yep, we'll have 2 classes later on this month. I have to look at the calendar and get them wrong, but the second weekend, the Saturday morning of November, and then later that week on the Tuesday, because we do a morning class and an evening class. So if you are a weekend person, your time is easier, do it then, or join us after work if that works better for you.
I should have taken this out of the plastic before I did it, but this is I can't remember the name of it right now. This is a beautiful scarf that I saw, and I'm saying it's beautiful, not my work. I'm saying I've seen the completed item and it's beautiful, in Margie's Yarn Crafts, which is not far from us. She has this is knit with KPPPM Koigu. This is knit in Koigu. And it's, you can see like the little motifs here. You do one at a time and attach them to each other as you go. And it just ends up being like this riotous color of flowers. And you can see I'm just barely starting. This will just be like as I do it. But the thing I love about it is that, look at all these Koigu scraps. So I was in on the I-91 shop hop and fell in love with the scarf that she had there. And she was like, wait a minute, because the store was busy. So she's like, wait just a minute. So I'm like, okay. So I'm standing there. And she came out and she like showed me all of these. And she was like, you can just have all of these so that you can get, because hers was knit in scraps like this. And so it's like really scrappy. So she sold these to me by weight. So I didn't have to buy like 8 different or 12 different, whatever, to get the same effect. And now my plan is just to like I'll use up all the blue here that I'm using and make like a cluster, and then I'll pull out the next one and make a cluster, and then
there's a kind of quilt that goes with that. And it's
crazy quilt?
No, it's a very specific name. Help, Allison, Jan.
Help us.
Our quilters, what? It'll come to me and I'll spend, I don't know, way too much time Googling to find this, but you'll know right away. But it's a mosaic, but then the color waves through it, and they're absolutely gorgeous. So I can only imagine what this is like in yarn. stunning. And is that knitting or is that crocheting?
That's crocheting.
Very cool. So I'm gonna need a knit flower version.
Excellent. So those are my sort of actively in progress projects that I have right now. What are you working on?
I'm working on repairing a shoulder, actually, first. So my knitting is a little bit limited at the moment, but this is going to be a showcase of a different kind of Morehouse yarn in a pattern by Sophia Talley called The Cabin. Here, hold up the part that's already, instead of that, hold up the part that's already unraveled.
I'm just like punching you right now, and I do apologize.
So this is called Morehouse Sliver, and it's a worsted weight, but it's thick thin, which gives a little more homespun look. And I love how it goes from like right here. I'll show off a skein and it'll show even better.
Okay.
Right, just of the thick, thin versions of all of this just gives it a little more texture to it. So look what's happening already with the ribbing. That is so much beautiful. More dimensional than regular ribbing. And you'll notice I have two pieces that are an unequal length on the same needle because I'm figuring front and back two at a time. And it does have a split tail, so that's why they're a different length ready to go. And I just thought, what a simple, elegant design that would show off the yarn. And I can't wait to see how this turns out. So wish me luck.
I think it's beautiful. I love this color. And I have to say that we were at the farm. I was at the farm with you, I don't know, like a month or two ago now. And it's the first time I ever touched this sliver yarn. And oh my gosh. Like Morehouse Merino is already soft. It's already soft. But the sliver, I think, is the softest that you have.
That was pretty amazing. Like that white undyed, they're like, it's like a cloud. And because it's puffy in some places and thinner in others,
I love it. I absolutely love this stuff.
Geeking out on yarn all of a sudden.
So that's coming. So
like that's new.
Constant. That's my constant.
So I hope to be able to wear that by the end of the year. We'll see how that goes.
What's this one you have?
This is going to be our December flock project, and we talk about, and maybe this is a good segue into Wovember, but wool needs to be celebrated more. And I have heard CC Knits the World talk about you need wool in every room in the house, and I fervently agree. So right here, this is a placemat, which, wow, look at the marling on that from far away.
That looks awesome.
That really does. And shout out to Victoria for test knitting this for me. And you can see this is what we call a linen stitch. And either side, you decide which one you like better, but we're going to do it in 3 different colors so that you have the opportunity to match your decor in your house. And then you have placemats that are washable, not just to set the table with, but as Amy Snell, the Devious Knitter, was reminding us when we did the Fizzy Drinks felted coasters, this baby is going to absorb the moisture rather than just pool it. So like a normal coaster, a stone coaster or something, they work perfectly to protect the table. They also collect the moisture, so when you pick up the coaster, you end up dumping the water on the table anyway. Whereas this is going to absorb it and protect it. And 3 skeins of Morehouse Merino worsted are going to give you 2 placemats and 2 coasters if you knit to gauge, which is pretty awesome. So in our December class, we're going to do the coasters, and then you're going to be on your way.
Yeah, and then you'll be ready to do
your 2 placemats.
The placemats.
So we'll do one coaster as our little swatch, figure it out. And if you need to rip it back because you're not knitting to gauge, whatever, not a lot to undo. But if you then work on to gauge and you're excited about this, you'll have little extra coasters. And that's what a couple of people are going to do with those Free Spirit skein packs. But wool in the kitchen.
Yes.
Covered. Or is that wool in the dining room?
It depends on your house layout, I guess.
We should do like a memory palace with wool in every room. A wool palace.
Wool palace.
Wool palace. That's what we're going to call our place, Anne, someday.
The wool palace.
The wool palace. There's a corn palace. So there definitely needs to be a wool palace.
You heard it here. Bales of wool.
I'm going to write this down because I'm going to forget this. It's a freaking awesome idea, and I'm still...
Stick with it. Yeah, I
like it.
Wool
palace.
Yep. So, speaking of wool, it's Wovember! It's Wovember, so happy Wovember, everyone. November is the month that we celebrate, educate, learn about wool.
Wonderful wool.
Wonderful wool. Some of us do that all the time, so it's not much of a change.
But actually, the discipline of you planning is now making me do one thing a day towards this goal of sharing why I love wool. So
it's a
that's
daily
really cool.
posting challenge over on Instagram. My username is I Thought I Knew How. That's where you can go to find the prompts. There's an image with a sheep and prompts on either side. And the goal is to use that daily prompt to make a post about why wool is so awesome. And I did not start Wovember. Wovember has been going for, I think, a decade at this point.
Cool.
And if you go to Wovember.com, you'll see the archives of the original Wovember people who would also do blog posts and interviews and things about it. And a few years ago, they decided it was just too much. And they asked people to carry the baton, basically. And so we are carrying the baton this year.
Passing it on, yes.
Thank you. We are carrying that on this year, and we have
a bunch of fun crafters working with us.
Yeah, we have
us. You started this. I'm just one of those people.
I know. It was one of those things where someone was like, "Hey, did anyone know if this is happening this year?" And I was like, "I can make it happen." Because I have no ability to say no or to not do a cool thing if I hear about a cool thing. So
well, that's the important part. Is the cool thing.
Suck people in and make them do it with me. So Erin's been sucked in. Excellent. And I've been loving your post so far.
Thank you. It got all fancy too.
It's like the 4th or the 5th. What day is this?
I think it's still November 3rd as we're...
Day 3? Yes, it's day 3.
As we're filming this.
Yeah, as we're filming. Probably 4 or 5 by the time it comes out. But you can get caught up. That's totally fine too. So we have prizes that are gift cards, yarns, kits, patterns. One lady is a photographer, Anna Shepherd, and she makes
very cool
calendars. I have one right over there.
Joe Sky.
From last year, Joe Sky. So we have Morehouse. I'm offering a prize. We have Knit New Haven, which is a yarn store in New Haven, Connecticut. The Woolly Thistle, which is an online yarn shop. LeTissier Designs, who is the lady who designed this one. Jeanette Budge, who is a teacher, a knitting teacher in Shetland. Joe Spencer, who does the calendars. She's on the Isle of Skye. Twin Oaks Fiber Farm from Guelph in
Ontario,
Canada. Yep.
Cool.
Uradale Yarns, Late Night Knits, who's another knitting podcaster in the UK, and Kieran Knits, who has she's offering
the thrummed mittens.
A thrummed mitten kit from Morehouse Yarn. So tons of prizes. What we're looking for are people who are able to do the daily posting, who are informative and really embracing the spirit of Wovember we'll choose winners on December 1st and award the prizes at that point. So,
but I think the world wins, right? When we started to talk about all the amazing things having to do with wool and who produces the wool, not just the animals, but the people.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that one. I was trying to pull out all my shepherd photos, like look for Albert, look for dad, look for mom. Just what can we share about this? And 30 is a lot, so pick the ones that inspire you because we want the best, not just the most, right? The best are going to engage other people to say, hey, what's this all about? And if we can cut through that noise, because let's face it, the internet is a pretty noisy place, right? Just to pique a little bit of interest, now we can start to have a conversation about the important things. And that goes for all the important things, but wool is pretty high on that list.
Yeah, and you're absolutely allowed to interpret the prompts as you want. Some of them are intentionally vague. If you are having a hard time thinking, like, what am I going to say about this? I would encourage you to go to the Wovember website, Wovember.com, and look through their archives. Also, just, it's okay to sort of sit back and see what other people do and grab some inspiration. The first prompt was why wool? And I absolutely loved it because there was so many different ways that people answered it. So some people answered with all the wonderful characteristics of wool. Some of them answered because, with memories of wearing wool and how wool's been a part of their life since the beginning, and other people talked about the economics of it. And it was just so interesting to see
all of them
different ways that it was answered, and so fascinating. And so there's other things like quality. Well, how are you going to interpret quality? The quality of the wool or a quality of wool, you have some leeway in how you want to answer.
So you're going to want to see my Beyond Craft one.
Yeah.
Anne might have an inkling of what that's about, but
I do. So that is going on all through this month. So again, if you're late to the party, it's okay to hop in and, as you can, catch up on the things, and just, if you follow, use the hashtags Wovember and I love Wovember, because Wovember is sort of for the general event, but then I love Wovember will allow me to search for people who are participating this year, so that when it comes time to award prizes, I'm not going to 2017 on accident or something, getting people
Great,
who are
check
doing
the
it
dates.
this
One
year.
more thing you got to worry about.
So please use I love Wovember as well as Wovember. But then that also allows you to search for I love Wovember and see what people are doing this year and to learn from other participants. So.
And I'm learning stuff too, so I'm thinking that's a really neat way to just, hey, instead of just a time suck of social media, hey, I'm turning this into something useful at the same time. So just follow along, and then when the spirit moves you, grab the day's prompt and share something.
And join in. And then in December, I have something coming up with Jana from the Purl Together podcast. We're going to be doing a Vlogmas. We don't have a name for it yet, but it's basically like we're doing a video blog all through December. We're going to open up our yarn advent calendars together and see what we got. We're going to have projects that we're going to work on through that month. And then also we're going to be doing interviews with hand dyers that will be released through that time too. So that will be on the Purl Together YouTube channel. So watch for that there.
Very cool.
Yeah. What do you have coming up?
Well, we've got the flock project. So check that out, MorehouseMerinoFlock.com. There's also a link from MorehouseFarm.com. But our community is so awesome to knit together whatever we're working on. So we have the opportunity not just to work on different projects and learn the different techniques and practice them together. We've got studio hours where you come with different projects that you have questions about. So one that Karen was asking about modifying a sweater, she didn't love the neckline. So what's the alternative if you don't want to have to rip it all back? Right. So we're talking about taking away or adding, right? Like we have both of those choices, and most people think, oh, I don't like a neckline, I need to change it, so I need to take stuff away. Well, what if you add a collar? Or a shawl collar. So much of what we're doing also builds the confidence to be able to try those different things, and things are a little outside our comfort zone, but practice in a safe space. So what if you have to rip back a few stitches? It means you get to knit a little bit more.
We like knitting.
Yeah.
So if you have to do it again, you do it again.
Yeah. So we've got some exciting projects coming up, not just this capelet, right? But putting wool in the kitchen, dining room, whatever room you want to on that. And then I think I have 4 projects lined up that involve everything from felting to Bavarian twisted stitches.
Nice.
Coming up. And then I'm going to have to learn entrelac again so that we can add that one in too.
That is something I have to relearn each time. But once you get it, it's like in the project, it's very easy to remember how to do it. But in between times I use it so rarely that I'm like, oh wait, how do I do this again? Oh yeah, okay.
But just things that continue to, continue to build on the other things that you end up doing.
Absolutely.
So we have a gift for you from Morehouse Farm, the holiday. And the reason that I'm wearing all black, unfortunately, I'm headed to a funeral. And the other part of that was I had to actually put on dress shoes for the first time in a long time. And there's a country song that says something about it's like wearing a shoe that's too small, right? Like you just feel constrained, and dress shoes are kind of like that in a lot of cases. So to make this better, you see the inside of my shoes are bright pink. This is actually felt from Morehouse Farm that has been turned into wool inner soles.
Nice.
To add a little bit of cushion to your step. And they come in 2 different sizes.
Nice and squishy.
And you trim them to fit the inside of your shoe. And just that little bit of extra cushioning can make a huge difference in your shoes.
So this says it goes to the large goes to a men's 13.
So put them in your shoes, and you can trim them out however you need. And I wear depending on the shoe, 8.5, 9, and I use the smaller ones even though it says to size 8. And then I just trim a little bit off so that it fits the shape of my shoe. Right. And boy, that little extra cushion feels like hey, I'm going to walk on a cloud, right? So use coupon code SOLE, and I did set it up both ways. So if you want this to be SOLE, or
your soul.
SOUL, because
these are good for your soul.
Wool is good for your SOUL. These are going to be free with any purchase of the month of November.
Awesome.
Add it to your cart and then use the coupon code. Put it in the coupon code box, not the gift card box, because the website's kind of
they're right next to each
particular
other.
that way. But yeah, so put it in your cart and then that coupon will give you one of these.
Awesome.
Complimentary with your order. So
very cool.
Enjoy.
Thanks, Erin.
Because it's good for the soul.
It's good for the soul and your souls.
And you need a pair, so stick them in your shoes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess that's everything for this month.
I think so. That's a good conversation.
So we'll be back in December, everybody. I hope you have an excellent Thanksgiving if you're here in the U.S. I hope you have an excellent fall if you're in the Northern Hemisphere.
And if you're in Canada, you just had Thanksgiving. So.
Yeah, I hope you're recovering well from that. And hey, wherever you are in the world, have an excellent November. And we'll see you next month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.